Hello and welcome to the Bad Break Pod, where we break down the craziest, juiciest breakups. My name is Chris Riata, and I'm here with my co-host, the indefatigable Gigi Engel. And
Hi
today we are
guys.
joined by Julieta Chiara, a sex and kink coach, blogger, and influencer extraordinaire. Julieta, welcome to the Bad Break Pod.
Thank you for having me, Chris and Gigi. This is so exciting.
We are
Absolutely.
over the moon. Over the moon.
We cannot wait to hear your crazy breakup story, which we hear you've got a pretty juicy one.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
to just lay the foundation before we get into the breakup, tell us a little bit about this partner and a little bit of backstory on how you met them.
Yeah. So, a little bit about and it's not even a partner. I think what makes it crazy is I'm 26 and that's my ex-husband. So, I come from Salt Lake City, Utah, where the standard is to get married young. I mean, we used to have magazines in high school where it was like how to plan your prom and your wedding at the exact same time. And
Oh
yeah,
my God.
exactly.
Jesus.
And I told myself, I was like, oh, I'm never going to be one of those girls because I'm not Mormon and I'm not necessarily American either. And it so ended up happening that I met my ex-husband in Utah. He ended up joining the Air Force while we were together. And he's like, hey, if we want to move around together, we're going to have to get married.
Okay, so
And
you weren't more Mormon in Salt Lake City, Utah,
no,
but 99.999% of everyone else there is Mormon, right? So were you
yeah.
just going with the culture there?
It, well, we weren't. It was so weird. It's like I come from like Argentinian atheist parents, and then he was Greek, so they were Greek Orthodox. And then we were both like, oh yeah, we'd never do the Utah thing. We did the fucking Utah thing. We did the Utah thing. 19 years old, we get married, and when his name, we're gonna call him Steven for now. I'll keep his name private, but I love addressing someone as a person. Well, Steven, he was everything I wanted at the time. He was an attentive partner, very sexual, a great like lover, husband, like all the good things. I have nothing bad to say about this man. We ended up getting married at a music festival. Like
Okay,
I
I
was
need to know all about this.
Yeah.
What?
What music festival? Back up.
okay. So
Yeah,
this is
it
I
definitely
love.
depends. Which one it is going to be a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, Gigi and I and our other friend, we just have a joke about how we're so trash. Like, everything that we do is fucking trash. And I was like, this is just the story of Steven and I definitely goes in there. Him
It's
and
on
I,
brand.
the only reason we met is because we were ravers. We liked raving. And we had met in Utah a few times, but then it was EDC Las Vegas, so Electric Daisy Carnival, which is one of the largest in the world. That was the first one I went to when I was 18, and he happened to be there, and we connected. And it was the nastiest, slutty weekend of like taking a ton of ecstasy to where you don't know your name and making out and essentially almost having sex on the dance floor. So someone's like, how'd you meet your ex-husband?" I'm like, I was
We
like,
were
I had seen him and then I mauled him at a music festival.
So it was a
And
weekend of like raving and love and falling head over heels for this man.
oh, absolutely. And after that, we were inseparable. And what really kept us together for a long time was the fact that that's what we bonded over. And I, even to this day, you guys, like a parameter for people I date is can we go on a bender together? I don't know if that's like the healthiest thing on earth,
I mean, same though.
but if we're
Same.
not going on a bender together, if we're not living that nostalgia that made me fall in love with like 90% of my partners, we're not doing it. So there's that. And we thought he's joined the Air Force and we had to get married. But we're like, there's no room for a wedding. I'm not getting baptized fucking Greek Orthodox because his mom wanted me to do the whole shebang. And I was like, that's delusional, but thank you so much for
It's delusional.
that's delusional. Yeah, and like Greek Orthodox baptisms, by the way, involve you getting basically dipped in olive oil like a fucking kebab. Like, how Greek is that?
That sounds extremely Greek.
That's
It
like
was
the
so Greek.
Greekest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I was like, do you bring out like the fucking baklava and the salt too to just yeah. So I was like,
Christ.
that's
That
painfully
was not
Greek.
happening. Yeah.
We're not doing that. And I was like, this is about legalities. Like, we need to slam this paper out. We need to get it done. And so I remember we both looked at each other. We're like, fuck, it's happening, isn't it? We're like, yep, it's happening. Our friend became an ordained minister and we got married at that same festival a year later.
I
That's
mean,
crazy.
Gigi, part of me thinks that's kind of adorable. I don't
Oh my
know.
God. It
I
was,
mean,
it was
it's like
incredible.
it's two young kids in love. Come on.
So you were
Love it.
20? You were 20 by this
I
point?
was 19 and like I want you to
Okay.
know this was one of the most glorious days of my fucking life. Because it was the music festival where we fell in love, and I'm obsessed with the music festival. I mean, I'm going for my 8th year in a row next month. I
Oh
still
my
love
God.
this
Wait, were
festival.
you on Ecstasy when you got married?
Fuck yes, I was. I was balls
Shut
deep.
up.
I was balls deep in a pill they called the infamous orange Tesla. And
The infamous
I
orange
was,
Tesla.
yeah, and I was having a moment. And it ended up happening perfectly that this was the only EDC all of our friends could come to. So we had 20 of our friends there. They host official marriages there, but I was like, I don't want to do that. Our friend became an ordained minister. So my ex is in these tiny ass little shorts. I have fresh new fake titties at the time, and I'm wearing like literally a thong and a samba bra where like the only thing being covered is my nipples. And mind you, they're so fresh that these things are like bolt on.
Do you have a photo that we can include in like
Yeah.
the pod notes? We can blur out the guy, or it can just be of
No,
you.
he's not even in there. I
Perfect.
went on a rage spree later and I deleted everything I ever had with him.
Amazing. We need a
Um,
visual of this. This is iconic.
so yeah,
Yeah, the
it's like
outfit is legendary, let me tell you.
oh, it's legendary. And to make it even more legendary, our friend that was an ordained minister and married us, he was dressed like a wizard.
Oh my God.
And
Superb.
it was really quick. It was like a 10-minute ceremony, get married, and by the time we got married, like we were all so fucked up that we're like we must go celebrate immediately. So we went straight into honeymoon, and that's how I got married.
Oh my
Okay, so
God.
seems like there are some red flags, although it's also an incredibly like adorable in my weird opinion. I mean, as someone who loves going to a music festival and partaking in whatever it is that you partake in at a music festival, I think that this is so far iconic. So where did things go wrong?
Yeah, well, and this is somewhere where I think only now can I talk about this in a healthy way to say like I was so toxic. and
Yes, girl.
and what I mean by me being toxic was I actually did not have toxic behaviors. I was never like a gaslighter. I was never avoidant. I was never really anxious. I had a beautiful marriage with a beautiful man. Where it went toxic for me is the fact that I got married at 19 and by age 21, like my you don't have that much life experience. Your brain starts going in other places. And I'm mind
Mhm.
you, think about this. I'm a military wife in Tucson, Arizona. I am alone. I do not have friends. All I have is my ex-husband, and he's starting to turn into a military bro, which doesn't work for me. Like, and I just started to feel lonely in my marriage. And what do you do when you feel lonely in your marriage? Your mind wanders. And that's when I started to get hints that I now know is you are not meant to be monogamous. At the time, I dealt with it with incredible guilt, saying, I'm in a lovely marriage with a lovely man, and I want to fuck everything that moves.
And did
So,
you?
no, it gets spicier than that.
Oh,
We
yes.
we ended up falling into our first group sex experience, and that was really, I don't want to say it was the demise of our marriage, but at least that was where my toxic side came out, because in this group sex experience it all came crashing down for me because I realized three things that day. I came out of the closet in three different ways that day, and it was very traumatizing. I was
Oh
like,
shit.
I'm not monogamous, I'm gay as fuck, I'm so bisexual, and I'm kinky, and I can't explore any of those things in my marriage because after
Kink
How?
was
like
off was kink off the table for you
Yeah,
guys?
why? Was he totally just military bro by this point and like
he
super
he was
Americana and
dominant,
traditional?
and he was rough, but the sex was
Mhm.
always, now that I look back at it with like the sex lives like us three have now, I'm like, Jesus, that was like it was boring in my standard. It was just very typical, like, give you some head, I'll give you some head, we'll have really rough jackrabbit sex for a little bit, and I think that's amazing, and that's it. But then when I wanted to do toys or kink tools, etc., it was never welcomed.
So he wasn't just gonna spit in your mouth.
No. And
That's a shame.
unfortunately, in the group sex experience we had, the other gentleman involved very much did spit in my mouth. And
Yes, King.
I was like, oh, damn. I was like, I
Once
remember,
that spit hit your mouth, you were like, there is no going back.
It's
no,
true. Once you
no, but that,
spit, there's no going back.
there's no going back. And so that was really the turning point. day for me where it all came crashing down. I was like, my emotional needs are not met. I am 21 years old at this time, and I just realized that I'm like a gay, kinky slut, and I'm in the worst position as a military wife to be any of those things. And from there, my behaviors obviously started following the fact that I wanted all those things so badly in like lying, in cheating, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then he actually brought up the divorce. And at the time, I remember being shocked because what are we taught our whole lives? It's like divorce is the worst thing that could happen to you.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Especially coming from Salt Lake City, Utah, where the whole
Yeah,
population gets married at 12 and stays married until the day they die. But
exactly. But I
how,
got
how,
released.
I mean, in a way, that's kind of beautiful, but like,
Yeah.
how exactly did this happen? No judgment. Was it just like you fell into an area of like cheating and then he was done with it, or like, and how quick was that? Was it a long extended period of just,
So
drama?
I would say and hopefully, I haven't talked to him in a few years, so hopefully he doesn't listen to this, but whatever. I don't think he knew the extent of my toxicity, if that makes sense. I'm very good at at the time I was very good at manipulating, very good at hiding, and I would say that my cheating adventures treaded more on emotional because I craved that emotional intimacy I was not getting. And there was the few months after that, it just became one of those things where we couldn't stand to see each other. I was always picking fights. I was always finding
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to be alone. And it wasn't until he went on a vacation and I found out that he had made out with someone, which we were exploring the idea of potentially being open. But I had reacted so poorly because what do cheaters do? They react poorly to the things that you do to them.
Oh, yeah. Gotta
Yeah,
have that disproportionate emotional reaction, honey.
of fucking course, of course. And I recognize that. I remember he just walked into the room and said, "This is not working. I don't think we should be together." And he's like, "We both want different things, and you're so unhappy." He's like, "Yeah, I can feel it radiating
Mm-hmm.
from you." And we ended up, mind you, no divorce is ever easy, but I think I picked the best person in the world to get divorced from. It was simple. It was easy. There was so much respect, a lot of tears, a lot of love, but I got out of there and he watched me flourish and he's like, "This is all I ever wanted for you was to be
That's
happy."
so sweet.
Wait, this is
Yeah.
like the juiciest, craziest story, but it's so
Yeah.
beautiful in so many weird ways. Are you guys still friends? Do you talk at all?
We're acquaintances at this point. I think if I something that was harder than actually getting divorced, and I'd really love for anybody listening to recommend this, is that if you're splitting up after a long-term relationship or a marriage, you need to take time apart. Where I fucked up on that was for about a year after we got divorced, we still continued to be very close and to see each
Mm.
other sexually. And ironically, the only kinky great sex we ever had was when we were split up, which
Oh,
Oh,
was
that's
same.
always when the sex is the best.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Chris,
always when suddenly it's like, why weren't you fucking me like this a year ago?
I like the level of resentment I hold with that is high because he became this sexual, energetically, emotionally intelligent man I needed him to be when we were not together. And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
I wonder
And
what that is. I wonder why suddenly, like maybe it's something like
well,
I no longer control you, or like I no longer really have that much to do with you, so I don't care if you're, I have no idea what that is, but I've experienced that too. That
yeah,
suddenly like the breakup sex is the sex that I wanted the entire time.
Yeah, and I think you grow a lot emotionally, like when you have your heart broken. And like
mhm,
breakups are never easy. Like even if they are, most people love each other and it's straightforward and there's respect and stuff, like breakups suck. And I think like
mhm.
that's when it's one of those pivotal kind of moments where our identity shifts and we're like, oh, we have to do so much work on ourselves. And then, yeah, you kind of can become a bit of a kinky whore.
Yeah, absolutely. And it felt so open and freeing to explore because I think he healed emotionally or was like on the path of like, hey, like what I was doing was not working in this marriage and same here. Um, but that made it harder to do the full split. And so I think the full split happened when eventually he had a partner and he did draw a boundary of I need to nurture this because as you can imagine, his current partner that they're still together with you can only imagine the level of anxiety, jealousy, and or intimidation one might feel when their boyfriend's ex-wife is me.
I mean,
A
god
kink
damn.
expert, sex expert, yeah, could be a
Someone
little
as hot as
intimidating.
you. Oh, that would be hard.
Yeah, like this crazy sex freak is my boyfriend's ex-wife. And yeah, it's a lot, and I recognize that because I've been told that quite a bit, and so it was of my utmost respect. I was like, I need to back off.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I need to back off, and I need to let it be that way. Ironically, a couple years ago, we ran into each other again at the same damn music festival.
Oh my
Oh my
god, what is
God.
with you and
I,
Electric Daisy Carnival? The
dude,
carnival
I
of
know.
dreams over here.
Every single saucy story I have tends to happen there, but we ran into each other for the first time in years, and we got to see each other, and I met his partner, and it was a really beautiful, beautiful experience. It was very closing. But yeah, I remember seeing him and thinking, now that especially Gigi knows me well and knows who I am and has known me for years, that I remember seeing him and I'm like, I do not know who you are. I don't recognize that side of myself. I was like, I can't believe we had a past together. That is nuts.
Yeah, sometimes you live long enough to see your loved ones become total strangers. Also, can I just say I love that every chapter of this relationship, like from start to finish, happened at EDC, from like falling in love to getting fucking married to then like seeing their partner and getting the closure that you needed and just feeling like you can continue on with your lives. I mean, it's EDC should really sponsor this whole relationship story.
Seriously, they
For
really should. They really should.
So,
real.
you've talked a little bit about how some key advice for you was that you would love to recommend is making sure that you take time after a breakup to really move on and figure your own shit out.
Yeah.
Um, what's some advice that you would give to someone like yourself who's starting a relationship, though, at the very beginning? Is there anything that you learned from this marriage that you would tell 19-year-old Julieta?
Oh, it's funny you asked that because I'm currently after 5 years of being divorced, only in the past 2 weeks have I formed some romantic connections that are looking in that direction. And it's the first
Oh
time I've
my
been romantically interested. So
Ooh.
oh
you're
my god,
basically
I am hearing this for the first time.
yeah, you're basically asking me to give advice to my current self right now. And I think that some of the advice I'd give myself is one, you are in no rush. You are in absolutely no rush. I feel like with monogamous relationships or heteronormativity, you think that everything works on this timeline where it's like, okay, when are we getting serious? When are we dating? When are we getting married and having babies? And
Right.
so getting into a romantic space versus when I was younger, I think I would have had more of an anxious attachment to where it was like a love bombing thing. It's like, oh, we should be together all the time. We need to do everything together. We need to officiate everything. So the advice I'm giving myself now is go slow. There's literally no rush. You can go slow. You need to get to know a person. And the other advice I'd give is that love is not enough. There
Mm.
is so many more factors as a successful adult woman to consider than just attraction and love.
What are some of those?
You got to have your fucking life together. Oh my God. Like I am not every serious relationship I've had, they've kind of been a project.
Mm.
So I'm like, no projects. I would love mental and emotional health and stability. I would love for your career to be in a good spot or be working on something incredible. I would love for you to have your own life and not be obsessed with me. Um, and then with love not being enough, I would love for you to be a kinky freak. I
That's
would
a
love for us
requirement though, right?
requirement. I would love for us to be slutty together, and I would love for someone to respect me as an individual human being and not do this whole like we must become one. This is not the movie Avatar. We are not gonna cross our little tails and you know. I would really just love the coming of two individuals together to consciously create something powerful out of the deepest form of respect and stability.
Mm.
Did you think after this last relationship, like now that you're forming a romantic attachments again, that this could be your journey again? Because I know you've been very much on the sort of solo poly adventure.
I I did not think it, and it's scary and it's triggering and it's new, but the real moment of healing is being in the thick of it and seeing your patterns and seeing where you would have traditionally gone, and then seeing the new choices that you make.
How would you say that you've improved those choices? Like, what do you do when you're feeling emotionally flooded?
Well, one is expressing it. I
Mm-hmm.
used to never communicate about my feelings. So feeling emotionally flooded, the couple people I've been talking to, it's been the first time in my life where I can message them, chat with them, and say, hey, can we talk about a trigger that came up for me? Or hey, can we talk about something that I did not really appreciate that you did towards me? Or can I talk about ways that I would love for you to show up for me and the ways that I like to show up for you? And so it's having this transparency and vulnerability with my feelings to where I would have never expressed that in
Hmm.
another light. Or especially like currently, I asked one person for space because I was like, I love what we're building, but this is too fast. It's too much, too fast, too love bomby, and it makes me feel like we're on unstable ground.
It's pretty great when you realize like the boundaries that you need in order to feel stable and being able to recognize like when you're doing something that's really healthy for you rather than behaving in a way that might be avoidant and just understanding yourself so well that you know what you need and not being afraid to express that because I think we have so much fear around
Mm.
expressing our true emotions because we're so afraid of rejection when actually the bravest and strongest thing we can do is be vulnerable.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it takes getting married at EDC to learn that.
I mean, hey, we got to have our life lessons some way, sweetie.
You
Well,
just have to go to a music festival, take so much ecstasy you don't know your name, and get married.
And then you will find the answers to life. And you too can be a strong, successful woman like Julieta.
Julieta, it's honestly though, all jokes aside, so amazing to know that you survived this wild story. You've come out on the other side, and clearly you've gained so much knowledge about yourself and about what you truly need to be happy. And I mean, just thank you so much for telling us your story, and good luck with your future relationships and the budding, blossoming love that you may be finding right now.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
thank
been
you for the.
absolutely incredible. We have loved having you. Obviously, Juliet is one of my very good friends and was blessing us with her presence today. Can you tell everybody where they can find you and all your amazing kink courses?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find all my educational resources and courses on julietachiara.com or plenty of free information on everything you might need on at Julieta Chiara on Instagram.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much, Julieta, for coming on the
Thank
pod.
you, babe.
Thank you for having me.